Most Americans think they have a spending problem. They think if they just cut back a little, budget harder, skip a few luxuries, everything will finally click. I thought the same thing for years, and that belief felt logical, comforting even, because it puts the problem back on you, your discipline, your choices, your willpower. But one night, while going through my own bank statements line by line, I noticed something that made me genuinely uncomfortable. Even after accounting for every visible expense, even after cutting things I was told were the problem, the numbers still didn't add up. Money was leaving faster than it should, not dramatically, quietly. And that's when I realized something most people never do. This isn't a spending problem, and fixing spending alone doesn't fix anything. Here's what makes this so dangerous. When a problem is framed incorrectly, every solution you apply just exhausts you faster. You feel responsible. You feel behind. You feel like you're failing at something everyone else seems to manage. But the reality is, this system doesn't drain you through obvious mistakes. It drains you through pressure that feels normal. And because it feels normal, you don't fight it. You absorb it. I started paying attention to conversations around me. People earning $50,000. People earning $80,000. Even people crossing six figures. Different lifestyles, different backgrounds, same sentence. I make more money than I used to, but I don't feel ahead. That sentence is the clue. Because if spending were the real issue, higher income would eventually fix it. But for millions of Americans, it doesn't. Stress stays. Anxiety stays. Margin never appears. That tells you the problem is structural, not behavioral. The first layer of this problem isn't debt. It isn't budgeting, it's personal inflation, not the headline number you see on the news, your real lived cost of existence. Rent rises when leases renew. Insurance creeps up quietly. Groceries don't spike once, they normalize higher. Utilities edge upward. None of this feels dramatic in isolation. A few dollars here, a few percent there. But stacked together, they create a constant downward pressure on your financial oxygen. And here's the trap. Your salary reacts slowly. Prices move continuously. That gap is where money disappears. Take a completely ordinary situation. Someone earning around $60,000 a year. After taxes and benefits, maybe they take home $3,700 a month. Rent jumps modestly. Food costs edge up. Insurance adjusts. Utilities rise. No lifestyle upgrade, no new car, no indulgence. Suddenly, $300 a month is gone. That's over $3,000 a year extracted without permission. You didn't spend it, you lost it. And because it didn't feel like a decision, your brain didn't register it as a threat. Then comes debt, which most people misunderstand entirely. Debt doesn't just cost interest, it steals time. A credit card balance doesn't feel dangerous because the damage is spread out. Minimum payments feel manageable, but carry a few $1,000s at 20+% interest, and you're paying a silent monthly tax just to stand still. That money isn't buying anything new, it's paying rent on your past. And because interest compounds quietly, it steals future options before you even realize they were possible. Student loans do the same thing, just slower and more socially acceptable. A monthly payment feels normal, responsible, but stretch that payment across decades, and the extra tens of thousands you pay aren't education costs. They're a tax on time, a tax on starting late, and nobody explains that when you're young enough to sign without fully understanding what compounding actually does. This is where the system shows its real genius. Everything is framed monthly, payments instead of prices, installments instead of totals, subscriptions instead of purchases. When decisions are broken into small recurring numbers, long-term thinking disappears. A car doesn't feel like $45,000. It feels like $600 a month. A bundle of subscriptions doesn't feel like $4,000 a year. It feels like background noise. And background noise is where money vanishes unnoticed. At some point, budgeting stops being a tool and becomes a coping mechanism. It helps you survive pressure. Instead of escaping it, you move numbers around. You delay goals. You tell yourself next year will be better. And meanwhile, the system keeps extracting its share, slowly, consistently, relentlessly. Healthcare adds another layer most people never fully calculate. Premiums come out automatically, so they feel invisible. But deductibles, co-pays, surprise bills, uncovered services, those don't just cost money, They create fear, and fear changes behavior. People hold excess cash. They avoid investing. They delay risks that could actually improve their situation. The cost isn't just what you pay, it's what you never attempt because uncertainty feels dangerous. Cars are another example of how normalized this has become. Monthly payments make large decisions feel small, but when you add interest, insurance, maintenance, fuel, and depreciation, many Americans are quietly committing tens of thousands of dollars to transportation without ever consciously deciding to. And because everyone around them is doing the same thing, it feels responsible instead of restrictive. What really hit me was realizing how this compounds psychologically. When money constantly feels tight, even at decent income levels, people stop thinking long-term. They focus on making this month work. They avoid looking too closely. They accept stress as normal adulthood, and that mental fatigue pushes them toward convenience, the very thing that keeps the cycle alive. This is why advice like just budget better feels insulting to so many people, because discipline doesn't stop inflation. It doesn't lower interest rates. It doesn't reverse compounding losses. The problem exists above your willpower, and when people fail to escape it, they blame themselves instead of the structure draining them. Here's something that rarely gets said clearly. Playing it safe is expensive. Cash loses value every year it sits still. Inflation doesn't announce itself. It erodes quietly. And the people who avoid this erosion aren't smarter. Their money simply moves faster than inflation. Assets grow. Ownership compounds. Meanwhile, cautious savers watch purchasing power decay and wonder why progress feels impossible. Even raises don't fix this. A raise feels like relief until taxes take a chunk, benefits absorb another, and rising costs erase the rest. The result isn't transformation, it's temporary comfort, enough to keep you compliant, not enough to change trajectory. And this is where the most damaging effect appears. The silent system trains people to internalize failure. They think they're bad with money, undisciplined, behind. But when you actually run the numbers honestly, you see something else. Millions of Americans are doing exactly what they were told, working, paying bills, being careful, and still losing ground. Schools teach compound interest as a benefit, not as a weapon. They don't show what happens when compounding works against you for decades. They don't explain how monthly framing destroys long-term thinking. They don't explain how financial pressure narrows choices until life becomes reactive instead of intentional. This pressure doesn't ease with age. It intensifies. Healthcare costs rise. Income plateaus, risk tolerance drops. That's why so many people in their 40s and 50s suddenly panic, not because something went wrong all at once, but because they finally see the cumulative effect of invisible leaks. Two people can earn the same income and end up in radically different places, not because one worked harder, but because one unknowingly paid a lower silent tax for long enough. That's the truth most people never hear. If this sounds familiar, it's because you felt it. That sense that something isn't adding up, that effort isn't translating into security. That feeling isn't weakness. It's awareness trying to break through normalization. This is exactly why this channel exists. Financial Underpinnings isn't here to sell shortcuts or shame you with discipline talk. It's here to expose the hidden mechanics shaping your financial life, whether you understand them or not. If this perspective resonates, subscribe to Financial Underpinnings, because clarity is the first form of leverage. Let me leave you with two questions worth sitting with. What expense has surprised you the most over the last few years? Not because it was reckless, but because it quietly became unavoidable. And did anyone ever explain to you that doing everything right could still leave you behind? Or were you expected to figure that out on your own? Because in the next video, I'm going to break down something even more uncomfortable. Who benefits the most from this silent extraction, and why escaping it requires thinking in a way most Americans were never taught to think. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, the real decisions finally begin.